I've now done over 100 Ks of running in the Adidas EVO SL, so I think it's about time I gave my full review. We'll go through the shoe from top to bottom. I'll chat about its competitors, its value, where I think this sits in Adidas's lineup and in the shoe market overall. So yeah, here's that. I was lucky enough to get an early pair here in Australia. This is going to release in 3 days on the 5th of December. Got it through Pace Athletic, who had 10 pairs. Somehow managed to be on the website, right place, right time. So pretty excited to get it early. Been using it for about 3 weeks now, using it mainly for long runs, easy runs, but mainly kind of longer daily stuff, and I'll chat about that soon. So in terms of the stats, we've got a 38mm stack of foam in the heel with a 6mm drop down to 32 in the forefoot. They're using the Light Strike Pro compound, a full midsole of it, and it's the same foam that they're going to be using in the Adidas Pro 3, which is the outgoing super shoe model, not the same foam as the Pro 4. I actually chatted to an Adidas tech rep about this, and they said it was because the Pro 4 foam is just a little bit too soft to be using without a plate, and this shoe does not have a plate other than a small dog bone shank in the middle, just to stop it from folding in half. In terms of weight, it's coming in at 260 grams in my men's size 10.5, which means it's still a little bit heavier than a Superblast, but it's going to be 20 to 30 grams lighter than most daily trainers on the market at the moment. So what's this shoe actually like to run in? We'll take you through it top to bottom, starting with the upper. I think this is a decent upper. I don't think it's great, but for 240 bucks, I think we've got to remember that this is definitely cutting a few corners in order to save price, but also to save weight as well. We don't have a whole lot of padding in the tongue, and it's not gusseted in, which is probably going to be the main complaint you'll hear from people, having it sliding around, not completely locked in. And you can definitely see a little bit of bunching on the lateral and medial sides of the upper through the midfoot as well. So it's not a super dialed in technical fit like you might expect from some more premium shoes. There's a decent amount of padding in around the heel counter, some memory foam inbuilt there. Very comfortable. I didn't have any heel slip or rubbing or anything like that. It's got a decent bit of structure there as well. Overall, the fit, I'd say, is true to size. So I've gone for a size 10.5 here. Got a decent amount of room ahead of the toes. I'd say this is more in line with what you'd expect from most Adi Zero models at the moment. The Adios Pro 4 fits a little bit short, so I was a little bit worried about this one. But yeah, the 10.5 has come through good. I'd go true to size. In terms of the width, it's pretty standard for a daily trainer. This is not a performance fit by any means. It's not going to squeeze your foot in like the Takumi Sen or maybe the Adios Pro 4 as a racer. Definitely a bit more relaxed. So a little bit of a squeeze in the midfoot, but quite open in the toe box, quite rounded as well. You're not getting this kind of swooping on the lateral edge, which I really like to see. I think overall it's a decent upper. I'm not really sure how much a tongue gusset would cost. I think that would be a pretty easy fix, and then you'd have a pretty much perfect upper for a nice, simple, easy running shoe. Getting down to the midsole, this is where the fun begins. This full Light Strike Pro slab of foam is very, very nice. Best way to describe it is smooth, consistent, kind of efficient feeling underfoot. It did take me a little bit of time to realize that this is not that kind of big booming super trainer that I think I was expecting and that other people were expecting as well. You're not going to be getting that big deep sink in with a huge explosive bounce back. It definitely is about protection, consistency, and a gentle rockering through your stride. It has a little bit of flexibility in the big toe, but it is still overall quite a stiff shoe. Light Strike Pro has a fair bit of kind of structure to it, and so you're getting this kind of nice gentle rolling feeling with a little bit of punch back from the Pro foam. The way that I've used this most has been for long runs especially. I think the extra structure that you get from Light Strike Pro feels very, very good, especially deep into the long run. Softens up a bit, you get a bit more squish, bit more bounce, and it just feels nice to have something so smooth underfoot getting into those longer Ks. Daily training as well, I think this is going to be one of the best daily trainers on the market at the moment, but I don't think that has quite the same level of versatility as I was expecting, despite the fact that it's got a pretty good weight underfoot. 260 grams, you can pick up the pace in this. There's nothing stopping you, but this shoe is not really wanting you to go fast. You put on some speed trainers or kind of versatile trainers like the Boston 12 or the Deviate Nitro 3, and you can tell that they're trying to egg you on to get you to pick up the pace. The EVO SL will go with you. It's kind of like, yeah, all right, mate, I'll come with, but it's not really egging you on, like telling you, whispering in your ear, go on, mate, kick down at the end of this long run. It's pretty happy to just cruise. I think for a daily trainer, that's a good thing. I think for a long time, Adidas have had a pretty polarized lineup where they have some fantastic racing shoes like the Adios Pro, the Takumi Sen, the Adios, all kind of quite snappy, fast racing shoes. But then their daily trainers have been, you know, quite firm, clunky, a little bit heavy. This is kind of bridging the gap between that. This is something that's in line with the Adi Zero line, but definitely focused into the daily training space. I like the feel. This is in the top kind of daily trainers that I've tried this year, but it's probably not going to blow you away as much as you're thinking. It's not a Superblast killer, which I will chat about soon. This is a Novablast killer. It's going to take over the daily training space, especially for 240 bucks. So lower your expectations and you'll be a lot more pleased when this shoe comes through as a very nice daily trainer, but maybe not as that big booming super trainer. It's a fun midsole. I really like it. I want more brands to do this with a big slab of super foam. Just let the foam speak for itself. Give us something that's simple, nice underfoot. I really enjoyed it. On the outsole, we've got Continental rubber. Not a whole lot to talk about here. The stuff is great. It's grippy, it's durable. With 100 Ks in it, you barely know other than the staining of the foam. And the foam itself is actually fairly durable as well. I've been running on gravel. You'd expect there to be a few chunks missing or maybe some sticks stuck in. But yeah, overall, it's holding up quite nicely. We all know that Continental rubber works on pretty much all surfaces, wet roads, wet pavement. It's just fantastic. The only place that I don't think it works great is on really like sandy, gravelly tracks where the rocks are going to roll underneath you. If you've got a flat surface like this, you're just not going to get any purchase on the ground. So something to consider there. But yeah, overall, really happy with how this has gone so far in terms of durability. I expect this to be a shoe that lasts pretty nicely. This Light Strike Pro seems to hold on for a long time. I've put 600, 700 Ks into my Adios Pro 3s. So yeah, expect the same from this. Coming around to the price point and some comparisons, this is going to be coming in at $240 here in Australia, releasing early December. In America, it's going to be $150, which I have no understanding of. Here in Australia, that $240 price point is going to do very well. You got the Novablast at $240, Boston 12 at $240. You've got shoes like a Nike Pegasus Plus, $260, Mark 6, the same. The Mizuno Mystery shoe as well, which is going to be doing quite similar things, is also coming in at $260. Then jumping up to the more premium shoes like the Superblast and Neo Vista at $320. I think Adidas has positioned this well so that the value of this shoe might actually swerve a few people from the Superblast who might usually just go ahead and buy it. Starting with the comparison to the Superblast, it's definitely not a Superblast killer. I thought it might be. I thought the setup kind of sounded about right to knock it off its perch, but this is definitely more of a traditional feel, a bit more smooth, refined, a little bit more subdued maybe. But I do think that's a good thing. It's kind of more structured, simple, rolling ride, whereas the Superblast is a bit more radical, has a bit more pop. It's a bit more stable and wide-based underfoot. But I think there are going to be some people who prefer the feel of this underfoot for their everyday use. I certainly do. I like this more than the Superblast for my standard everyday run. But when it comes to the long run, and in terms of protection, stability, I do think it's still pretty hard to beat the Superblast. But 240 versus 320 does pose a pretty good question. And I think overall, in terms of value, the materials, the actual ability to get your hands on this, fingers crossed, hopefully Adidas have enough of this in stock. I do think the EVO SL is better value for what you're getting underfoot. A few other comparisons, I think that this is a much better shoe than the Novablast 4, which I felt was a little bit dead underfoot. I don't think the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco Foam is that nice. I think it's quite firm, uninspiring. This has a bit more juice to it, a bit smoother through foot strike, a little bit less clompy, but I'm not really sure about the Novablast 5. Might be a much better shoe. They're going to be coming at the same price point. I think these two are going to dominate the daily trainer market, which will be interesting to see. Then we got the Adidas Boston 12, which is going to be a question I get a lot of. Which one should you go for? The way that I see it, the Boston 12 still has more pop, a little bit more speed than this shoe. Mainly because it's just a little bit firmer, a little bit more direct, and you do have a bit more stiffness through the forefoot because of those energy rods. Chatting to the Adidas tech rep, it does sound like the Boston is going to be departing a little bit more from the EVO SL. They're trying to separate them to stop that confusion, which I think is really good thinking. Right now, I think I prefer this for daily training, but I think I prefer the Boston if I was going to pick up the pace in any real way, shape or form. I think the directness of that shoe is just a bit nicer, but in terms of everything else, this is nicer in terms of the upper, more comfortable, less harsh, and smoother underfoot as well. good chance I'll do a dedicated comparison video in the future for the EVO SL, but the last comparison I'll do is the Mizuno mystery shoe, which is a shoe that I've actually brought up here on holiday. And I think these are going to be doing very, very similar things, maybe with a slightly different attitude. So the Adidas EVO SL, as I said, is a bit more smooth, refined, not super bouncy, but the Mizuno mystery shoe is a really compressive, bouncy experience without a whole lot of rocking out of the forefoot. I think in terms of their use case, they're going to be filling in similar slots. You've got daily training, easy runs, bit of long run stuff as well. I think the Mizuno has a bit more pace just because you've got a bit more compression and bounce out of this supercritical TPU foam, but the EVO SL definitely feels like it has a bit more guts to go long. So I'd use this for a 20K long run and above. The Mizuno shoe I probably prefer for a nice short 8K easy run, 8 to 10Ks, where your legs are feeling fresh, you're kind of bouncing along. But the EVO SL, if I'm feeling sore and I just need something to keep me moving, this would be where this would step in. 260 for this, 240. I think they're going to be pretty matched, and I think a lot of people are going to be talking about both of these shoes in the next couple of months. So yeah, those are my kind of overall thoughts about the EVO SL after 100 kilometers. I think Adidas have knocked this out of the park. I'm really pleased to see that brands are willing to put some really nice technology into those lower price point shoes. 240 bucks, and you get a full slab of super foam at a good weight. Looks fantastic as well. I'm really excited by that. I hope more brands continue to do it. I think Mizuno is jumping on board. I guess the Pegasus Plus is kind of doing it, but I want to see the lower price point shoes, this kind of simple but effective model, which just demonstrates what your super foam can do. If you're watching this before the release date, I really hope you can get your hands on a pair. I think they're a really nice shoe to have as part of a rotation or just as a dedicated daily trainer. If you're watching this and you can't get your hands on a pair, I'm really sorry. You're missing out. This is a really great shoe.